So today we are going to see a presentation from Karachi, from Ashar Lodi and his family about Islam. What is Islam? All the questions we want to do or want to make about Islam, this is the day, okay? So Karachi and the guys from Karachi, Ashar, you have the word, you can start your presentation. We are very pleased to have you here with us.
Yeah, before I start, let me introduce you my nephew with my nephew. He's in Bahrain. He has just joined. Name is Sarmat. Sarmat, if you can speak a few words.
Hello, everybody. So yeah, I'm in Bahrain. It's 3 a.m. here. Happy to join. I'll be talking at the I'll be talking at the end of the presentation as well. I have a small part.
Great. Pleased to meet you.
So I'm going to share my screen and then start the presentation.
Go ahead.
Let me know, Wagner, if you could see my if you could see the screen.
Yes. If you could,
yeah, we can. Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So shall I start?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri. Wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. That's a small prayer in Arabic to give us a strength to explain things in the best way we can.
Okay.
But today, as you know, you see today's presentation is about understanding Islam. But before we go into the presentation and starts describing it, this will be the contents that we would be discussing, and it would be a wonderful if anyone of the participant could ask questions. We'll try our best to answer them. So this is the broader content that we are going to cover during this presentation. Before we start, a bit about the presenters, correct? So it is actually me, my family, and my nephew sitting in Bahrain giving this presentation. We have divided this presentation into small pieces, so everyone is going to cover for that. Before we start, we need to actually explain one thing. That you see, we are not scholars. All of us who are presenting this presentation are not scholars or religious scholars. We are just practicing Muslim family. And we will just try our best to introduce the Islam and philosophy of it to the group that is listening. So this is actually about generally about the people that are presenting. When Wagner asked me a few months back about giving this presentation, I was excited. At the same time, I was a bit worried because that gives me under a lot of pressure and responsibility to explain the religion. But when I discussed it with my family and my nephew and other members, they all liked the idea and took the challenge, and they got so excited that they all wanted to participate eagerly. And you can see, it's 5 a.m. in the morning and we are all awake. Everyone in the family is awake since about the kids, the 3 kids haven't slept the whole night. So since this is a public holiday today, so they are going to sleep after this presentation. Anyways,
that's
me
good.
And my, yeah. So they were so excited that they could not sleep because of this presentation. Just a bit about us that you are going to present. My name is Ashar, as Wagner introduced you. We have been working with Wagner since last 5 years. We started off with doing a couple of projects with Wagner, but now I can very easily claim that me and Wagner and our families are very close to each other. And I'm a personal, I feel liberty to take that. You see, I personally enjoy Wagner's company, and really I enjoy being with him. So.
Hola and good evening from Karachi. I'm Madiha. I am dentist by profession, and I'm a passionate reader, especially reading about science, religion, biographies, and history. I love to teach kids, no matter mine or others. And my favorite thing is having holidays with my family. As my husband already said, we are not scholars, so we humbly introduce Islam in a way as someone introduces his family or his country to his friends.
Sarmat?
Hey guys, so yep, I am in Bahrain. What do you call it? Ashar is my favorite uncle of all my many uncles. And I live in Bahrain. I used to be a chemical engineer once upon a time. Went to the UK to study, and I'm an entrepreneur at the moment. That's my current avatar.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Fatima and I'm 18. I'm a student of A-level and I like playing table tennis and swimming and I love animals. I am Zanab. Assalamu alaikum. I am 15. I like to read, write especially. I wrote a novel a few years back and
That's it.
oh, yes. My name is Ibrahim.
Please come closer.
Okay. My name is Ibrahim. I'm named after the Prophet Abraham. I like planes and cars. I like to make theories and inventions to make the future better for the environment.
Islam, everyone.
So with this, let's begin our presentation formally. And I really wish that we can all understand it, and we shall be able to explain it to you in a best way.
Islam, everyone's talking about it. With a global community stretching from China to Timbuktu to California and everywhere in between, this religion is the way of life of a quarter of humanity. But what is Islam? What do Muslims believe? And what is Shakira's law? Well, let's find out. With about 1.8 billion followers, or 24% of Earth's population, Islam is the second largest religion on the planet, and therefore the universe. Muslims make up the majority of the population in 49 countries, as diverse as Yemen, Nigeria, Albania, Kazakhstan, and Malaysia. This 1,400-year-old religion started in modern-day Saudi Arabia, but today only 20% of Muslims are Arabs. Indonesia is actually the country with the most Muslims, holding around 13% of the world's total. About 30% of Muslims live in India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Christianity is named after Christ, Judaism after the tribe of Judea, and Zoroastrianism after the 1998 swashbuckling adventure film The Mask of Zorro, starring Antonio Banderas. Islam is named after an action. Islam means submission to God, and Muslim is the person that submits to God. The root meaning of the word Islam means peace, safety, and security. The Arabic word for peace, salam, comes from this root along with the Hebrew word shalom. So, submission to God means finding peace by following God.
Welcome again. It's Madiha here. We will go through some Arabic terms as well for better understanding. And here one thing is very, very interesting, that there are many religious terms in Hebrew, in English, and in Arabic that sound similar. And this is because they are similar divine origin. So I first call Ibrahim. Ibrahim, are you here, please?
Uma coisa que eu venho dizendo aqui no Em Pauta muitas vezes. É correto apontar o dedo para o governo Bolsonaro, que tomou a iniciativa.
For God.
Please, a little louder, please.
Okay. Allah, simply the Arabic word for God. The same God worshipped by Christians and Jews. He is the God of Abraham and Moses, not a different God. Christian Arabs also refer to God as Allah.
When you feel all alone in this world and there's nobody to count your tears, just remember no matter where you are, Allah knows. Allah knows. When you're carrying a monster load and you wonder how far you can go, with every step on that road that you take, Allah knows. Allah knows. No matter what, inside or out, there's one thing of which there's no doubt. Allah knows. Allah knows. And whatever lies in the heavens and the earth, every star in this whole universe, Allah knows. Allah knows. When you find that special someone, feel your whole life has barely begun. You can walk on the moon, shout it to everyone. Allah knows. Allah knows. When you gaze with love in your eyes, catch a glimpse of paradise, and you see your child take the first breath of life, Allah knows. Allah knows. No matter what, inside or out, there's one thing of which there's no doubt. Allah knows. Allah knows. And whatever lies in the heavens and the earth, every star in this whole universe, Allah knows. Allah knows. When you lose someone close to your heart, see your whole world fall apart, and you try to go on, but it seems so hard. Allah knows. Allah knows. You see, we all have a path to choose. Through the valleys and hills we go, with the ups and the downs, never fret, never frown. Allah knows. Allah knows. No matter what, inside or out, there's one thing of which there's no doubt. Allah knows. Allah knows. And whatever lies in the heavens and the earth, every star in this whole universe, Allah knows. Allah knows. 'Cause no matter what, inside or out, there's one thing of which there's no doubt. Allah knows. Allah knows. And whatever lies in the heavens and the earth, every star in this whole universe, Allah knows. Allah knows.
Allah is the proper name applied to the true God, who exists alone and includes all his excellent divine names and perfect attributes. Allah is one and unique. He has no son, partner, or equal. He is the sole creator and sustainer of the universe, and there is none like him. Allah, the Supreme, is the Lord of everything, who controls all affairs. He is the most merciful, whose mercy is boundless.
Every grain of sand in every desert land, He knows. Every shade of palm, every closed hand, He knows. Every sparkling tear on every eyelid, He knows. Every thought I have and every word I share, He knows. Allah knows.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Ibrahim. The poem you have shared reminded me our last week's journey. We were on a family vacation and accidentally and suddenly we were stuck in a very heavy storm on a very dark night in a totally jungle highway. And there was only water and the storm everywhere. It was the darkest night I have ever experienced. And we were unable to take any forward or backward step. And at that night, nobody knows where we were. And the only stand was the same feeling, Allah knows. Okay, now come again to the topic. What is Noble Quran? Quran is last among the heavenly revealed books. The source and purpose of all divine revelations is same and was sent by God, Allah, on his prophets over time for the guidance of mankind. So we discussed some of the heavenly revelations like scrolls of Abraham. And as I already mentioned, there's beautiful similarity of sounds. So Abraham, peace be upon him, we called him Ibrahim, the same name my son has. The Old Testament or Torah on Moses, peace be upon him, we called Moses as Musa. Sam or Zabur on David, peace be upon him, we called him Dawood. Look the similarity, David, Dawood. Bible or Injil on Jesus, and we call him Isa. One of my nephews' name is Isa also. Quran is last among them, and it was revealed on Muhammad, peace be upon him. Quran is the speech of Allah. It is not a creation. It is the word of God, and it was delivered from God by the angel Gabriel to Muhammad, peace be upon him, who would memorize the verses he received and recite them to the companions who had happened to be with him, and order them to write them down immediately. Quran was revealed in the form of installments over the time of 23 years, and it comprises of different chapters of different lengths. Muhammad, peace be upon him, spent most of his life in two major cities of Arabia, Makkah and Medina. The initial life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the initial time of Islam was in Makkah. The philosophy of Quranic teaching is based on gradually and consistently developing individual mindset. It's not on criticizing or character assassination of others, but it's character building of individuals leading to the society. So the Makki surahs, the Makki chapters carry a common theme. And that common theme is not basically about the rituals, the methodology of worship, but it is basically about the mindset and character building. So the primary theme is the concept of oneness of Allah, the concept of monotheism. Faith on angels, faith on the revelations and books, faith on all the prophets, from Adam to Muhammad, peace be upon him, including prophets Abraham, Jesus, Jacob, David, Moses. According to Islam, they all were pious people. They were messengers, true messengers of God, and they were the best people of their times. As we discussed that the Madani time, the time of Medina, was the time when Islam was quite established. Sorry. So the theme of Madani chapters were basically about the methodology, about the methods of worship and the concepts. Please carry on. Protection and authenticity of Quran. Muslims are commanded to recite Quran during day and night and in pairs, and refer all their disputes for the final judgment to Quran. The Quran which we read today and the Quran that was read during the times of Prophet and his companions were the same. There's no difference in it. And this is not the claim of Muslims, but that is the promise and claim of the God in Quran. As it is mentioned, indeed, it is we who have revealed it, and it is indeed we who are its guardians. So there's not a difference of a single word, single letter in the text of Quran from the times of revelation till now. Even the sound, if there's something sounds la, it's la always, it's not li. There's also a system of protection of Quran by people who memorize it from the very initial times. Even nowadays, thousands of kids, young men, women, all memorize Quran word by word without changing anything in it. Please. Quran as a legislation. The Quran constitutes the most comprehensive concept of Islam on the practical level. The word Sharia is an Arabic word which is used for legislation. As we call it, comprehensive, so it includes the law itself, moral values, and the basic concept of Islam. This Sharia, that means the Islamic law, is not only suitable for Muslims, but it is suitable for everyone. Why? Because it's not only safeguarding the rights of Muslims, but it's equally describing the duties of Muslims to other Muslims, to other human beings, no matter from which religion they belong. We are answerable how we are behaving to animals. We are answerable how we are using water. We are answerable how we are using our environment, from where we are getting money and how we are spending it. Because their share of other people, the needy people, the orphans, the people in need in our earnings too. If we classify legislations, it's basically, we can classify into two types. The divine law and the man-made law. The man-made laws are subject to alteration and are based on theories. Whenever a new body of legislator assume authority, a new theory appears or appeals, the law has to change accordingly. That means the laws are time-bound. In the other hand, the divine laws are authored by the Creator, who is everlasting and ever living, who was there when there was no creation and who would be there after the end of time. So the divine law is perpetual in nature, has permanence in it. Because the Creator is the best who knows about its creation, so they are not time-bound. Yes, please. Quran is full of scientific knowledge. Different scientific aspects are thoroughly covered in it. And Muhammad, peace be upon him, was unlettered. He could neither write nor read. He belonged to Makkah, where there were no schools. He was far away from these scholarly centers of Alexandria, Rome, Athens. And the most amazing thing, the science explained in Quran was not discovered in 7th CE.
When you read Quran, actually, Quran encourages everyone to inquire about the place that they're living in, about the air, about the atmosphere, about any scientific thing that actually is around him. And that is why Quran actually, every time Quran invokes you from inside to think hard about the science that goes around. When we actually talk about verses in Quran, there are two types of verses that we say. One is the verse that is directly written in Quran, which is the verse that we say. And there are some hidden verses, like whatever is going around you, maybe if you could see the air blowing, if you could see plants growing, if you could see anything that is actually the beautiful flowers, mountains, you would see that, you see, they all are revealing something that someone has made it. And these are called the indirect ayats, the indirect verses, which we in Arabic refer to them as the ayat konia, or what we can say is an indirect verse that actually explains the Lord and the God. So practically, as Madiha told you a while ago, that you see, its Quran is full of signs. So when you look at the things around you and try to correlate it what is written in the Quran, you would always find them to be exactly in sync. And just to present you a few of them, only a couple of them, because the presentation cannot allow me to present more and more, I will give you two examples. One is from Dr. Maurice Beckles, who is basically a gastroenterologist by profession, a doctor. And he is known for his book, The Bible, the Quran, and the Science. He wrote this book after a lot of research on the mummies, especially the Egyptian mummy of Pharaoh Ramesses II. Many people think that he's a Muslim after writing this book, but he is not. So what he has quoted about Quran, studying the Quran with respect to whatever he has found in gastroenterology, and especially on his research on the Egyptian pharaohs Ramesses II's mummy, he said, I could not find a single error in Quran. I had to stop and ask myself, if a man was author of a Quran, how could he have written facts in 7th century that today are shown to be keeping in modern scientific knowledge? This is what he wrote. Again, this is one of the examples. The other many verses, this is direct verse from Quran. Any verses actually shows evidences proven by the science today about the creation of the universe as well. Like this word of verse 21, verse 21 says, have not those who disbelieved known that the heavens and the earth were joined together as one unit piece? Then we parted them, and we had made from water every living thing. Will they not believe? And if reading this verse, you could see that today's modern science has proven that the basic constituent of life is water, and the water and everything was joined together, and then it actually came to being as the universe that we live in. As I quote Sir James Jeans, who is basically by profession an English physicist, astronomer, and mathematician, and a professor at the Princeton University in the early 1900s. He quoted, we have found that as Newton's first conjuncture and a chaotic mass of gas of appropriately uniform density and very great extent would be dramatically unstable. Nuclei would tend to form it in it, around which the whole of the matter would ultimately condense. So this is his work in 1900s. And then if you correlate it with my slide that I just presented, it is the slide, it is about 1400 years back, revealed on Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Human reproduction. Complexities of human reproduction were decoded and understood only after the invention of more sophisticated and scientific and medical instruments, hundreds of years after the death of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. In Quran, this topic is discussed in various places in detail. I quote one verse here. And actually, I need description of 3 words that describe the 3 stages of initial embryonic development. And indeed, we created man out of an extract of clay, water and earth. Thereafter, we made him the offspring of Adam as nutfa. This is the Arabic word which need explanation. We will go through it. The word nutfa. Then we've placed him, the nutfa, in a firm lodging womb of a woman. Then we made the nutfa into a clinging cloth, alaqa. Another Arabic word, we will go through it. We made the clay into the lump of flesh, madgha. We made the lump, the bones, we covered the bones with flesh, then we developed him into another creation. So blessed Allah, the best of creators. Here we discuss 3 Arabic words that shows the 3 different stages of early development. First, the nutfa. Nutfa means a mixture of different drops, the female and the male gamete. It is the concept of fertilization. The life begins from the single cell. Although it was the junction, the fertilization product of 2 cells, but it is the combined single cell, the nutfa. The second term is alaqa. Change the slide, please. Alaqa means leech. Leech, the animal, the blood-sucking parasite. So in this stage, the initial embryo is clinging to the womb and it sucks the blood. And you can see the shape, it's just like the leech. The third stage is madgha. Madgha means hued object. Can you imagine in 7 CE, where there was no ultrasound, no such devices, nobody can see the stage of madgha where the chewed marks are there. Nobody can see the shape of the leech. And these are the terms, the alaqa, the leech, madgha, the chewed object. You can see it is amazing simply.
Hello, I am Fatima, and today I'm going to be talking a little about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Basically, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was the last among the messengers of God. He was born in Makkah in 570 CE, and even before getting prophethood, he was known for his honesty and trustworthiness throughout the area. He received his prophethood at the age of 40. The Prophet ﷺ was also was a prophet, just like the other prophets. This is proven by his one of his sayings, in which he described himself closest to Jesus, the son of Mary, in a way which basically shows us how the teachings of Jesus and his teachings were very similar. Here are some of the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, which are also some of the teachings of Islam, basic moral teachings. For example, the mercy towards others, trustworthiness in helping others. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is among the best examples for one to follow. The next topic I'm going to discuss are the articles of faith, which are basically the fundamental beliefs of Islam. These are the beliefs on which every Muslim must be convinced on by heart and action. There are basically 6 basic beliefs of Islam, which are the belief in God, belief in angels, belief in the revealed books, belief in prophets, belief in predestination and divine decree, and the belief in afterlife. The first Islamic belief is the belief of God, belief in God, meaning the oneness of Allah. This topic is known as Tawheed in Arabic, and it covers 1/3 of the Quran. Tawheed consists of the belief in existence of God as an immortal who has always been there and will be there until the end of time. It also shows the absolute authority and perfection of God, and that he has no rivals, equals, or partners. This was the message of all the prophets. Following that is the belief in angels. Angels are believed as the creation of God, which are invisible to human eye as they're made up of light. They're genderless and they have no free will or emotions. The purpose of their creation is fulfilling the duties and worshiping God. After that, the belief in divine books. There are four divine books: the Torah, which was revealed on Moses, Psalms, that was revealed on David, peace be upon him. Bible was revealed on Jesus, peace be upon him, and Quran being revealed on Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. All these books were brought down by Angel Gabriel and are a sequel to each other, meaning they have similar topics covered. They all are the divine messages of God and a source of guidance for humanity. After that, the belief in prophets. Prophets are believed to be sinless, perfect, the best among human beings. Some of them were given books. The exact number of prophets has not been revealed to us, but it is somewhere around 124,000. All the messengers of God were given the similar message, which is the oneness of God and so on. And we are instructed to believe in them, love them, and respect them as equals. Following that is to believe in predestination and decree, which is basically fate. After that, it is belief in afterlife and the last day, which means the world has to end one day, and after that, there's a second life. There are 5 obligatory rituals in Islam. First one being the declaration of faith. That one declares that they believe in Allah and the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ as the last messenger. After that is the obligatory 5 prayers, which are an opportunity to communicate to God and to show togetherness. After that is zakat, which is compulsory giving, in which the rich Muslims are supposed to give some amount of their wealth to the needy ones. Following that is fasting in the month of Ramadan. And after that, the pilgrimage to Makkah, which is compulsory for Muslims once in their lifetime for the ones who can afford it. It shows equality and togetherness. Thank you. This was my part. I hope you have no questions.
Thank you, Fatima, for sharing the rituals. Now I'm coming to non-obligatory and non-ritual ways of worship. Here we discuss Sadaqa and Ihsan. These are 2 Arabic words, and virtually I was unable to find a single word in English or in my mother tongue Urdu to explain them. Let's see Sadaqa and Ihsan. They are very wide and very deep and very pure. Any act performed for the sake of Creator, the Allah, in the right manner comes in this category. It can be as small as a smiling, giving water to a thirsty bird, helping someone, giving someone money, supporting someone, giving support to orphans, planting a tree, saving water, guiding right way to someone, make someone happy. It includes charity, it includes happiness, dutifulness. It's so wide, virtually you can think anything which can come in this category. A good act of making somebody, helping to make somebody happy, to support someone for the sake of your Creator comes in this category. In the end, I must say, this Sadaqa and this Ihsan is the powerful tool that changes a house into home, a country into nation. And it is the immense source of satisfaction and pleasure to your heart.
Now with this, I guess Sarmat has a presentation here. Sarmat, I'm stopping my screen. If you could share yours and then present your part.
Very good, Ashar. So, Asha.
Yes, Wagner.
Yeah. Can you put in the presentation mode?
There you go. I hope you guys can hear me, and also you guys can see the presentation. Correct? Everything is working.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Anyway, so look, Islam culture versus lived experience versus what we hear, what we see every day is quite different, right? My family, my cousins were able to explain to you just very briefly the basics. Let's get into it a little bit in terms of who we are and as lived experience. So we all have biases, we all have an image of ourselves, right? And here's a picture of a family in Canada, right? A very picture that I think jives with let's say I see a lot of people from the West here. I see a lot of people with maybe Caucasian parentage. The thing is, these sisters, they're quite well known to me, right? So I put their picture with their permission over here, and just to get through and sort of wake everybody up to the biases of the self that we have. These sisters, are these sisters. So the one on the right is my wife, and Catherine. The others, Sarah and Alex, they're my sister-in-laws, right? But if you were to see them on the street today, you would not even think they're sisters, right? Just because of what they're wearing. And the funny part is, and this is a really funny part, that when Kat and Sarah, her sister, for example, are chatting away somewhere in Europe, and people realize that I am the husband of this hijabi girl, they give me the stink eye, right? They look angrily at me. All the white people are like, huh, this guy, man, what's he doing to our girl, right? As if I put that hijab on her as a mode of oppression. And the opposite happens when I go to Pakistan and they realize that this is a not a Pakistani girl. They're like, oh wow, look at this guy, he's a charming guy, he's somehow, I don't know, colonized her or something. And the truth is, I found her like this, right? See, she converted to Islam back in the day when she was in university, long before she met me. This is her choice. She could take it off tomorrow. It wouldn't matter, right? But to our biased mindsets and the way we think, and the way maybe the media makes us believe, it's up and down, down and up, right? So just to sort of like tell you the lived experience of a guy who is constantly living in two worlds, the East and the West together, right? And just because a girl puts on some kind of cloth on her does not make her Eastern. She's quite Canadian, right? And so another example, this is my overall family. So this is, my brothers, my daughter, and this is my brother from Trinidad. I mean, he lived in Trinidad a long time, and this is his wife, and she's not Muslim, right? So she's from Trinidad and she's not Muslim. And here's the funny part: they've been married they've been dating before they were married, and to this day, whenever he goes to her family, they're always checking for bruises on her face, very silently, because they think, hey, Muslim man must be beating his wife. So we live in a world where we have so many preconceived notions about each other, right? And it's so impossible that this could be true if everyone was evil on one side or the other, right? And so it's just little funny anecdotes that I thought I would share with you guys, because we're all victims to it, right? The East, the West, the South, the North, we're all victims to confirmation bias. So you have already heard about Islam and what is Islam. If the topic is what is Islam, Islam is many things. It's not just one thing. So Islam is a faith, and we've talked about that. There's one God, and the idea is that all multiplicity leads to the one. So we are multiple, whereas God is one. We have many languages. We have many, we are many species of animals and genre of people and tribes and nations, but God is one. He is unique, right? Then you have messengers, you have the angels, the judgment, the fate, the ihsan, which is basically doing everything with a beauty as if God is seeing you. So, being an artisan in your work. that is the essence of the faith, right? Is it practiced today? Not necessarily. Do we see it a lot? Not really, right? So Islam is a faith, but then Islam is also a religion. And what I mean by religion is what we say rituals, right? So we have the 5 pillars, the prayer, the charity, the zakah, the hajj, all of those things, right? So Islam, while if you believe in one God and his messengers, you become a Muslim. That is your faith. The practice of the religion, not every Muslim is a practicing Muslim, not every Muslim follows every 5 prayers, etc., etc. Islam as a religion then becomes this, right? And then there are 3 signs. So the word for signs in Arabic is ayat or ayah. And that is also the thing we call the verses of the Quran, right? So there's 3 things you need to study in the universe when you see the stars and the beauty of the stars and the rivers and mountains and whatnot. And the same thing among yourselves. When you study yourself, you will realize beauty. And basically what you're trying to do is get to God, right? You're trying to get to that oneness, that eventual power. And in the Quran as well. So these are the 3 ways that you come to God, either by reflecting upon yourselves, on your own body and how intricate it is, on your spiritual self, or on the universe, or on the Quran if you believe in the Quran, of course, right? Now, Islam is also a culture, and this is very important, which is very different to a religion, right? So Islam is a faith, Islam is a religion, and then Islam is a culture, right? So from Nigerians to Ugandans to the Arabs to Malaysia, everyone has their own unique history and then their own unique flavor, therefore their own Islamic culture, right? And this could mean many, many things. There are, for example, the Islam of the Arabs might be a bit harsher, right, in the way it is portrayed or manifests itself within that culture, whereas the Islam of the Malaysians will be a bit softer, quote unquote, whatever you define as soft, because of the way that culture is, right? So when you say Indonesia is the highest population of Muslims, you will see the way they practice Islam is quite different to how perhaps the guy in Jeddah or Riyadh is practicing it, right? A lot of it is because of the culture. Now, you will see in Islamic architecture, because we're not supposed to be making, portraits of things with souls. So there's a lot of design. If you guys have been to Spain, Andalusia, you've been to Alhambra, you'll see all those like beautiful, intricate designs, right? The concept is in arabesque architecture that all multiplicity leads to one. And since God is the creator of all this multiplicity, so like this design on the right hand side, it starts from one and cascades down and down and down like revelation, right? So it's a constant creation of multiple things. It starts from the one, which is God, and carries on through like dinosaurs and genres and you name it, right? And that's the idea that we celebrate multiplicity. Now, Islam is also a history. So Islam itself, beyond being a culture, is also history, right? So of course, it's been 1,400 years since Islam started. So you can imagine all the baggage that comes with that history, right? So that history is co-opted by whoever wants to co-opt it. So if you see the first Rambo, it is all about jihad being amazing in Afghanistan, right? And now jihad is evil. Something else is good. Something else is bad. So it's co-opted by whoever wants to co-opt it because it's history. It's preempted by anybody. If you were to read today's newspapers, you would think Jews and Muslims can't live together. But guess what? The golden age of Jewish culture occurred in Muslim Spain, right? Under the protection of, because Judaism has always been a minority religion and everywhere because of the way it's structured. Under the rule of the kings of Granada, the sultans of Andalusia, it was allowed to, really flourish. Why? Because guess what? Jews and Muslims have historically lived very much in peace, right? Today they don't, for multiple reasons, whatever politics might be, whatever the history might be. My favorite character is Maimonides, right? Or Musa ibn Harun, as he was known. If you see in Cordoba, they have a statue of his, and you could see that on the right-hand side. And it says he was born in Cordoba or Granada, one of the cities, and he died in Cairo. And you wonder, why did he die in Cairo? Because he was also the right-hand man of Saladin, right? The man who conquered Jerusalem, one of the heroes, even from the Christendom, he was respected because of the way he treated everybody. So that's funny. Imagine a Jewish scholar who is credited with, rewriting the Torah properly and codifying it, being the right-hand man of a conquering sultan. We can't imagine it in today's world, But Islam is a history, and it's always being preempted or co-opted. So if you want to look at Islam as the faith, very, very different. And then you should just study Islam, the faith. If you want to look at Islamic history and culture, we should try not to mix those two together, basically. And again, just to hone down on that fact, from the Alhambra to the mosque in Timbuktu, to the mosques in Malaysia, to the mosque in Cambridge that was built just 3 years ago, right? Architecture this vast, cultures this vast cannot be lumped together, right? Not everyone is the same. There's just multiplicity, right? The only thing that unites us is probably saying that God is one and Muhammad is his messenger, right? The way we pray is very, very similar all over. But even then, we should always be focused on the fact that there is history, there's politics, there's culture. So Islam, what is Islam? It's many, many things. And to everybody, it's different things. Culture and history, of course, mix to make politics, right? So obviously, we shouldn't be distracted by whatever today's politics are, or Muslims can't live with the Jews, or whatever it might be, because politics is just, levers for the powerful to maintain their power, what have you, right? Today, Afghanistan is bad. Tomorrow, yesterday was great. You guys know. This is how it works. Now, what is also very important is that we only bring our own selves to any faith, right? There are monks of the Buddhist, of the Buddhist ilk who are carrying out massacres today. There are extremist Christians, there are extremist Muslims, there are extremist, you name it. Hollywood would make you believe Buddhism is very calm, but guess what? Unfortunately, every religion has its fringe, right? So we only bring ourselves to any faith. We only get what we take to it. Some of the most beautiful people I know are lovely Christian people, right? Some of the most beautiful people I know are lovely Muslim people. Same goes for the evil people, right? you take people like Osama bin Laden, you take people like Saddam Hussein, co-opting religion for whatever they want. Malcolm X is my personal hero, a wonderful man. And he was, part of that cult, which was called Nation of Islam, thinks every white man is the devil, comes to Hajj, is treated by all these white, yellow, pink, purple people, and converts to mainstream Islam during the Hajj, and starts saying that America, the solution to racism is Islam. So again, he brought social justice to it, and he saw that. It depends on what you bring to any faith. I will leave you with this, and I hope that there will be a copy of this presentation that will be sent to you guys, so that at least you could be able to read it. Now, what you heard today was us Muslims talking about Islam. Of course, I'm going to tell you it's amazing. Just like I'm going to tell you my baby's a genius, right? I'm going to tell you my baby is the best baby. She's a genius. La-di-da, la-di-da. I have confirmation bias. I think, what I follow is the perfect thing, right? So what I'm giving you here is books written by Westerners for a Western audience, right? To maybe understand it, because I live in these two worlds, the West and the East meeting together, right? I know what is convincing to me is because I'm so close to the thing. I can't tell you why my baby might be or may not be a genius, right? Or may be ugly or may not be ugly, right? But what I can tell you is, here, speak to this teacher or speak to this pediatrician, and they'll tell you if my baby is whatever I'm claiming. So the Study Quran, a beautiful translation, but also, so I grew up in Saudi Arabia, by the way. I have never read a Quran which was so unbiased towards, because everything has an agenda, and the Saudi Quran and the way they allowed it to be translated or whatever was quite biased when I was growing up in terms of the English that was used, right? A very classic example is the first chapter of the Quran. When they translate the end, they would say, غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. God, do not take me to the parts of the people who are deviant, right? Or whose anger is on you. And the translation of in the Saudi Quran would be brackets Christians, brackets Jews, right? So the people who have deviated are Christians, and the people who are angry are Jews. But when you read the Study Quran, you will be told, oh my God, there's like 7 volumes of what these words could mean, right? It could mean sins of passion, or sins of forgetfulness, right? Because you deviate versus you cause God's wrath, right? So I would highly encourage you guys to read or to buy the Study Quran. It's huge. It's a very big book, but it's written for universities in America by a professor of George Washington University, and it's not just him who's written it; he's the editor. Wonderful book. I've never read a more unbiased. So they'll tell you the Sunnis say this, the Shia say this, the Sufis say this, right? Within the whole translation. Then, of course, Malcolm X's biography is just a beautiful book for anybody to read, regardless of religion. I mean, religion features only in the last little chapter of it, but Malcolm X's biography is beautiful. Then there is a 10-minute article that you can read on The Guardian about Islam is not a monolith, right? So if some guy is a wife beater, does not mean that this is Islam, even if he's trying to use Islam to justify it, right? It's not a monolith. It's not followed by only one kind of person. It's not followed as one kind of thing. Similarly, The Vision of Islam is a wonderful book written by William Chittick and Sachiko Murata. They're actually a husband-wife team, and they converted to Islam back in the 60s or 70s, right? And they discovered that there is nothing in the West that speaks to a Western audience, right? Much like what you may have heard today, because again, we're not a Western people. You may say, hey, of course you're going to say this, right? So what they do is they just break down the actual faith for you. And this is now a book in universities across America. If there is a course on Islam, this is Islam 101, Vision of Islam, right? And William Chittick is a brilliant thinker, brilliant thinker. Then there's a 15-minute interview with Dalia Mujahid, who's a social activist in the States, with Trevor Noah, right? So you could click that link and you could look at that. And then there is a wonderful book called Destiny Disrupted. Again, for the Western audience, this Afghan man, he went to America, was teaching, and he thought, how is American textbooks not have Islam as like even a chapter? It's like a throwaway comment, right? Whereas if indeed philosophy was reignited, if the Renaissance was reignited through, the translation of Plato into Arabic and then into Latin. So how is this possible that Islam is being ignored here? So he wrote this book, what is the Islamic perspective on history? How do we look at it? And he called his Destiny Disrupted because he was like, we were destined to be a great people. Then what happened? It got disrupted, right? So what happened? And then like our view on the history of the world. It's a fascinating book. It's very easy. It's written in very simple English. Pretty cool. Anyways, and then there's some Western scholars you can follow on YouTube, like Timothy Winters, the man who founded the Cambridge Mosque. He's actually now goes by the name Abdul Hakim Murad. So TJ Winters, Martin Lings, a scholar of Shakespeare, and of course, the person I mentioned here, William Chittick, right? If you want to sort of like get those perspectives. One final thing, obviously, my uncle who loved my daughter wanted really me to put this picture in there, but this is a force fit. It has nothing to do with anything. So this is a force fit picture of me and my baby playing around at the Wazir Khan Mosque in Lahore. But one very important thing I think what differentiates Christendom from Islam is our relationship to science. So we don't have, the baggage that the time of Galileo carried through, right? So because we don't have a priesthood, we don't have a hierarchy. We just believe, hey, you just talk to God on your own terms and that's it, right? So what it is I think a small difference that happens very often in the philosophy and the evolution of that philosophy is, for us, when we discover the Big Bang happened or the world is 1 million or 1 billion years old or dinosaurs existed, we don't say, no, dinosaurs didn't exist like evangelicals in America. We say, cool, God created dinosaurs, that's nice. And we carry on, right? For us, discovering science is a way of discovering God himself. So we don't think that faith and science are at war with each other, right? And that's a very fundamental difference, I think, in the philosophies and the way they evolved over time. So we don't think they're fighting each other. We just think we are, by learning more about ourselves, about nature, we're just in awe of God. That's about it. Yeah, so I guess that's the real, maybe the only difference in our histories. Thank you very much. And I guess comments and questions are now open.
Very good. Okay, so thank you so much, Ashar and Sarmat. And well, here we are now. We can start with questions and answers. So go ahead, guys. If you could raise your hands, would be better. But anyway, we don't have any hand raised, so you can talk. Pessoal, alguma pergunta? Otávio, go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Okay. You know, there's so many questions that you could ask about so many aspects of what was described today. But I was just thinking, I was on a trip to Israel, and I was talking to a Jewish woman that told me that she was Jewish, but she did not believe in God. Okay, and that surprised me because I thought about that would be impossible. But once you understand how a person can call herself Jewish, you understand that it's possible to be Jewish and not believe in God. And the same thing I think is true for Catholics. You know, I think there are many Catholics that they call themselves Catholics and they went through all the rituals of Catholicism and they don't believe in God, but they call themselves Catholics. So my question is, can a Muslim be called a Muslim if he does not believe in God? I think I know the answer to that question, but I would like to hear something from you.
Yeah. So I'll answer that very simply. So Judaism, of course, it's also lineage, right? Being a Jew is also your mother is a Jew, so you are
your mother, correct?
So yes. Yeah, your mother is a Jew, so you're a Jew. So that's actually a race in itself. Islam is not a race, right? Mm-hmm. Islam is a faith. So technically, if you don't believe in God, you're not really Muslim. But yes, you could be culturally Muslim. This is a very new phenomenon in the West, which is happening, which is, you know, you love the kameez shalwar, the clothes, the colors. You love reading Rumi poetry, but divorcing it from God's word, right? Because mm-hmm. Rumi was actually a Islamic scholar who was talking about God, not about your girlfriend. So when he talks about love and beloved. Mm-hmm. So technically, no. If you don't believe in God, you're an atheist, But if you want to sort of like, hey, believe in, God in your own way, sure. If you want to not be a practicing Muslim, there's a word called practicing Muslim, which basically mm-hmm. means, you believe in God, but you don't pray 5 times a day. You kind of drink, for some reason, the brainwashing against pork is very strong. So even if you drink, you're not eating pork for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. But so technically, you're not Muslim. And I don't think people will call themselves Muslim if they don't believe in God, because it's not a race. But mm-hmm. cultural Muslims, like, oh yeah, I love my culture, I love my where I'm from, and since where I'm from is a predominantly Muslim area, they're mm-hmm. free to say that, right? So it depends on who you ask.
Mm-hmm. And when you were talking before about you growing up in Saudi Arabia, and you mentioning the different translations of the phrase, you were talking about Wahhabis, right? You were talking about the Wahhabism. Is that that's what you meant when you were talking about it?
Yeah. So the term Wahhabism is also a Western construct, right? So it's come down from the West, saying that, hey, these Saudis are like this because they're following up the Wahhab, right? Who was a guy who was like, let's say he was the founders of Saudi Arabia's, or maybe even his father's religious, spiritual leader, let's say, right? So you could say that, you could say it to make it very easy, yes, right? We talked about Wahhabism, but Wahhabism as a construct within Islam doesn't exist. What it is, at that time, whatever politics dictated, Saudi Arabia being basically a North Korea with McDonald's, right? It has a very strict monarchy. So whatever is said goes, right? And if that's what they use to control the people, that's what they use to control the people. So I wouldn't call it Wahhabism. I would call it very strictly Saudi Arabia's brand of Islam, or at that time that they were following, which now they're, like I said, they're a monarchy. Now they've changed it, right? And now they've decided that everybody's, so many other things are okay now. So yeah, to make it simple, your answer, yes, let's just call it Wahhabism.
Yeah. Okay.
But the truth is, Wahhabism as a sect or anything does not really exist within Islam. This is a Western lens being put on us.
So when you look at the Mecca and Medina, for example, today, that is in control of Wahhabism, right? I mean, is that the way I should look at it? That
it's in control of Saudi Arabia, right? So,
yeah.
And whatever Saudi Arabia is following, because by the way, Saudi Arabia itself is now moving away from that very black and white. So let me give it to you in historical context. I think this helped me. It might help you. So Islam's first capital was Medina, which was an oasis town. It was a settled town with Jewish tribes and other tribes around it. That was the first capital. It then moves to Damascus and then to Baghdad, right? And then to Istanbul, right? So the capital or the heart of Islam moved here and there. It has never come down to Riyadh, which is essentially a nomad town, right? When nomads and Bedouins, you take the example of Genghis Khan, right? Or Genghis Khan, as he's known. When he came and swept through and destroyed Islamic civilization back in the day and burned down the library of Baghdad, which was the beginning of the end of our civilization, he didn't care for buildings, right? Because these are nomadic people living in tents. So if you see the Saudis in a similar light, nomadic people living in tents, not really caring for buildings or written word, right? But what happened then was, after a couple of generations, Genghis Khan's kids realized, oh, this is a cool civilization. Oh, this is like, I like this building. So what they did was, they co-opted Islam and said, we are Muslim. They were completely brutal, just like Genghis Khan. If you say Tamerlane, as he's known, he destroyed the world. He was worse than Hitler, probably, right? But he did it under a Muslim name, with the guise of like, I will rule with Islam. But then his kids came, and they were much more what you would call civilized and more astute, right? And his kids were basically the Mongols, the Mughals, who then ruled India and made the Taj Mahal and made all these things.
Sure.
The point I'm getting to is, nomadic cultures in general are very black and white. They're very harsh. They do not care for spoken word, written word. They do not care for architecture. So I feel like that generation destroyed so much of Mecca and Medina as well, and destroyed so much of the architecture, right? You could call it Wahhabism, you could call it nomadic, you could call it whatever. And now all of a sudden, they're trying to remake those buildings. They're trying to figure out like, oh, what about that history? Let's take out those shrines and let's find a nice little place where this happened and that happened. So it's very funny to me, very frustrating to me, because they've destroyed a lot of the architecture already of Mecca and Medina. So right now, the world is in flux. And yes, the Saudi regime is in control of Mecca and Medina at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see now, Adi.
But I must mention one thing here. You see, Makkah and Medina has been under control of many countries. Like before the Saudi Arabia came into being in the early 30s, it was under the Ottoman control. So if you go to Makkah and Medina right now, you would see a lot of remnants of the Ottoman Empire as well. So Ottomans actually ruled it for about more than 300 years, more than 300 years. So you could see evidently the traces of there. And as Sarmat told you, that you see the nomadic culture came in about last 70, 80 years, and that has its toll on the architecture or on the things that you see there. But right now it is under the control of Saudi Arabia. But you never know until when it remains in their control.
Sure. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, let me just ask maybe a last question, and I'll let somebody else, ask whatever. When my understanding of Muhammad, of the Prophet, is that he was not just a prophet. He was also a warrior, an administrator. Between Mecca and Medina, he pretty much run both cities from an administrative way. Is that right?
Yeah. So Muhammad, the Prophet, was essentially also the ruler of Medina. So he was also, let's say, the first political leader of Islam, right? So he's the founder and the political leader of Islam, right? So you could say that he's an amalgamation, for example, of Solomon, right? So King Solomon is a king, whereas he's also a prophet, right? So he's a bit of both, because unlike Jesus, let's say, Jesus did not have many disciples when he was died or taken out by God, or So what happened is he did not have chance to be a political leader, right? So essentially, yes, Muhammad was the political leader, the first political leader of Islam, in a nutshell. By the way, one thing that I've not written over there, this biography by Martin Links of Muhammad gives you the tribal and historic perspective of everything. Is wonderful. It also gives you like the overall. It's a wonderful book anyway.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate the answers and also your efforts in getting up at 3 in the morning, 5 in the morning, and really spending your time with us.
These are
Very,
talks.
very,
these are
very educational for us.
Very
Actually,
good.
see, it's a pleasure for us as well. It's a pleasure for us as well.
Falar, então? Posso falar?
Sim. Go ahead.
Posso falar?
Sim, pode.
Você desativou meu vídeo porque eu estava arrumando aqui.
Pode pôr de volta.
Ah, eu que tenho que pôr?
Fui eu que tirei.
Não, diz assim, você não pode iniciar seu vídeo, pois o anfitrião desativou o vídeo.
Agora já foi. Ok, pronto.
Agora sim. Não, eu fiquei nervoso porque eu estava querendo falar, ninguém deixava eu falar. Aí eu comecei a
Daí você
ajeitar
fica agitado, eu tive que tirar o vídeo.
eu quero falar, ninguém deixa eu falar.
O Ari, você tem alguma pergunta para eles que estão esperando você fazer a pergunta?
Eu tenho, sim. Depois, você falou 15 minutos, eu posso...
Falei.
5 minutos,
Agora
eu sou um pouco de linguista.
Let's talk in English. Let's talk in English.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation. Like Otavio said, among other many things that he said, it's very good that you wake up early to give us this presentation. And I think very interesting that you separated Islam from the use that they make of Islam. And it's very funny that in the West, in Brazil or in the States, everybody thinks that Islam is a radical people that like Al-Qaeda and other groups. So my question is jihad part of Islam?
Yes, it is. And I will explain to you what jihad is. So I'll take it. This is a very, I've grown up to this. I was 15 when 9/11 happened and I was in the UK. So I've grown up with these questions. These are like so easy for me to answer. But very simply, yes, jihad is a part of Islam. What does jihad mean? If you want to go to brass tacks and say, jihad is fighting, basically the essence of jihad is fighting for good, right? Now, the definition of good in terms of if you're Osama bin Laden becomes fight America and kill everybody, right? The fight for good means different things to different people. It's how you define good, right? And as was mentioned, that if Islam is also an administration or a political entity, right? Then just like every single army has, every single country has an army, right? That war that they think they're waging for good, they will call it jihad in their language, right? So you take an Arabic word that is not very easy to explain to you, you just use it as a word of war, right? Is war part of any politics, any culture, any history? Yes, war is part of that politics, history, and culture. Now, jihad itself just means struggle, right? You will see people, Arabic people, whose name is jihad. So poor them, they never get visas. But their name is jihad, and it means struggle. And jihad al-nafs means struggle with the self against your worst desires, right? So when you have the worst desires to I don't know, sleep with the neighbor's wife or something, you struggle and you fight it. That's jihad al-nafs. Not to lie, that's jihad al-nafs. Now, here's the tragedy of Islam, or the history of Islam's tragedy. Back in the day, before the First World War, there was always at least one caliphate, right? So since the Prophet until 1918, there was always at least one caliphate claiming that, oh, we are the caliphate of Islam. Sometimes it was the Mughals, sometimes it was 3 or 4, but at least there was one. And that army would then perform this function of whatever jihad would be, and it would be politically charged, right? So Ottomans are coming to Vienna or whatever. But the rest of the Muslims are like, somebody's like, protecting the Islamic State. Somebody is protecting us. That's cool. But once that breaks down, once there are only nation states which mean nothing, just random borders, right? So this word jihad becomes politically charged. Then there is no army defending. So I'll give you a simple example. Like when we live our lives, right? You don't know this, but the 90s was full of Palestine, Bosnia, Kashmir, right? All of these things were happening slowly, and the Muslim people look at this as attacks on themselves, and nobody's defending them. So the power vacuum, or the spiritual power vacuum, is then filled by a bunch of rogue, crazy people, right? So that spiritual power vacuum, that's why, by the way, Saudi Arabia has a lot of soft power in the Muslim world because of their hold on Makkah and Medina, right? So yes, jihad is a thing, but that's just war. It's like asking America, do you have an army? It's like asking Brazil, do you have an army, right? Or do you go to war for your own interests? Yes, you go to war for your interests, right? You can frame it as you wish. But unfortunately, scholars would argue that true jihad in today's world probably doesn't exist, except for maybe a few oppressed places, right? So it's a fight against oppression in general. But anyways, let's not get into very deep things. People would say Palestine is probably the only place where true jihad would exist, because that's oppression and blah, blah, blah. But like, let's not get into highly charged political things.
But yes, simply speaking, joining jihad with what Al-Qaeda was doing is not jihad. Exactly. So what was happening in Afghanistan was more of a political thing, rather than calling it as jihad, or the term jihad is being politically used to basically for somebody's purpose.
I want to add something. The word jihad means doing something with effort. And the best of the jihad is jihad against stopping yourself against doing something bad. The best of jihad is preparing your own self for doing something good. Okay, doing something good with effort is jihad itself. Stopping your own self harming somebody else is jihad. Stopping yourself telling lie is jihad. Okay?
Or even writing something to protect someone. Like jihad could be with the pen as well. Like if I start writing an article protecting someone or highlighting something bad, that comes into jihad as well. So it's not necessary that you do jihad with guns or that you do jihad with bombs. You can do jihad. You always do jihad when you stop yourself from doing something bad. That's a jihad.
Teaching someone is jihad.
Teaching something is
anyway, okay, so I think other people have questions and I need to go to sleep. So go for it.
Tell me, why the Sunnis, they don't go well with the Shia? And what is the difference
that's another wonderful,
between them?
That's another. So that's a beautiful question, because it's also 10th of Muharram. So you have Protestants and you have Catholics, right? You have Presbyterians and you have whatever else, right? So there are sects. I mean, even within Judaism, there's about 70 sects or so many. You have the Kabbalahs and you have the Orthodox Jews and you have the Zionists and all that. I mean, I don't think Zionism is a sect, but anyway. So having said all that, so Sunnis and Shias are just two of the major sects, and Shias constitute about 10% of the Muslim population, right? And again, with history and politics, it's always been co-opted or preempted. So I'm in Bahrain, and Bahrain, by the way, is known as the Shia capital of the Middle East. It has the highest percentage of Shia people, right? And guess what? My wife, she's a political historian, and that's how she converted to Islam, and she was studying history back in her university days, or rather Middle Eastern history. But her final thesis was actually on Bahrain, because by the time she married me, she came over, and then she wrote a thesis, right? And she was in Bahrain. She's like, what's this country? Funny story, and I'll leave it at that, right? Is Sunnis and they would marry, like there's a lot of intermarriages. It's a small island. So Sunnis would marry Shias, Shias would marry Sunnis, very common in Bahrain. And the word Shias or the word Sunni only started appearing in the newspapers after the Iraq invasion, because divide and conquer has been an old trick of the imperialists, of the colonials. You divide, you can conquer. Hindus and Muslims used to live happily in India, before the the imperials and the so yes, there has been historically always a division of the way we are, our theologies, right? That's a deep topic. But to exploit those divisions is a politician's game, right? It's not my game. It's a politician's game to exploit those divisions. And only after 2003 that they start seeing all of this. 2011, the Arab Spring happened. The Arab Spring in Bahrain was also a very collective thing, but they made it Sunni and Shia, so the Sunnis would sit down and the Shias could be persecuted. So to answer your question, all divisions can be exploited by politicians.
Okay. And any more questions?
Wagner, in general, Wagner,
yes.
Shias and Sunni, like you see, Shias and Sunnis, we have a lot of Shias living in Pakistan as well, and majority is Sunnis. So generally speaking, there's no fight, there's no quarrel amongst, and there are a lot of things that we actually that we have a lot of friends that are Shias as well.
Sure.
So again, as Sarmat mentioned, anything can be exploited politically.
That's good. And wow, anyway, is there any other question? I have one question, which is not specifically about Islam, but any other question about Islam? Go ahead, Phil.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, I would also like to thank the whole family for this really wonderful presentation. I wasn't imagining something with so much information. And I'm actually from England, from Britain, been living in Brazil for a very long time. I was born from Jewish parents, and in the middle of my lifetime, I got attracted to Buddhism. And some people say I'm part of the Jubu movement, which are the Jewish Buddhists, who are people that have some sort of a mixture of beliefs. And but I feel that I'm more at the moment a Buddhist. And I would like to take one point, which in the presentation, where I think, if I'm correct, Muhammad was mentioned as being the last of the prophets. And this is something I've heard a lot from people who really criticize Islam and other people who don't criticize Islam. And I never really understood exactly what it means by the last prophet. And so my question is, does that mean that there is the belief there will be no more prophets, or that Muhammad is the most recent in the long lineage of prophets in the history of the human population?
So if I can take that one first, very simply, we believe that all the prophets came for their people during their time, right? So Jesus, Moses, a lot of them came to the Israelites, and so on. And Muhammad is the last prophet who came for mankind, and that's it. So there's no more prophets. So there are scholars, there are good people, there are leaders, there are all those sorts, right? But after Muhammad, no book will be revealed, right? No, no more revelation. The revelation has stopped now. Now we are at the, let's say, as the Hindus say, the age of Kali. We're at the end times, right? So Muhammad is the final prophet. There's no prophet after it. There is, of course, the belief that Jesus will return, because Jesus did not die in our theology. He will return at the end of times, and he will rule by Muhammad's book. You see, so this is this is our belief. And yes, to answer your question, Muhammad, we believe, is the last prophet. There's no prophet after him. Like Buddha, by the way, there are very big, beautiful treatises which say that Buddha probably was a prophet. Right?
Yes.
Because there's a lot of work on that. We're like,
there's a lot of work on that.
That every culture was sent, every people was sent a prophet to guide them, right? Because God is just, God is merciful. So everybody had, guidance towards the oneness of God. That's it.
There can be a question that how can we claim that Muhammad, peace be upon him, is last of the prophets? So this is basically one of the fundamental faiths in Islam. We got this knowledge from the basic fundamental obligatory faith in Islam that Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the last among the prophets.
So I have a question. Sorry, Phil, if you don't mind, if we can make this a little
go
discussion.
ahead.
We're learning as well. So why is that a criticism though? Like, you know what I mean? Because for Christians, let's say Jesus is the last prophet because they don't believe anybody after Jesus. For Jews, Moses is the last guy. They believe Jesus is lying and Muhammad is lying. So I'm very interested in why that's the criticism, because every religion will claim their prophet or their man to be their man. Otherwise they'll just be the other religion.
Well, my question comes really from the way it's very personal.
Sure.
That I'm imagining, I hope, that the human population will continue for a long time, evolving and having more history and more things happening. And at the moment, I'm not very happy with everything that's going on around the world, which I think is common to most of us. And so I don't really understand why there should not be more prophets as time goes on. Maybe not in the near future, but in the long future.
Look, I think it rests on the contention rests on the definition of prophet, right? Right. So I mean, if you look at it, the 10 commandments from Moses are enough for humankind to be kind to everybody. Not to kill, not to covet your neighbor's wife, not to, and to worship one God. That's basically it, right? The 10 commandments are more than enough for everybody, right? And now it's just every time. So we do have a belief where, like, every century, a mujaddid is sent, which is a renewal of religion or a renewal of faith. A man who will lead
every century.
Every century, there is a man who will renew the faith amongst the believers or among the people, right? So, I mean, I would say Malcolm X was a prophet. You know what I mean? But it's prophet in the English sense, not prophet in the Nabi or Rasul, which is the Arabic sense of the theological sense of it. So I'm a hopeful man myself, and I agree with you that the earth right now is burning. If anything, we need leaders. So this is not the end of leadership. This is not the end of, it's just the end of how to get to God. It's the end of, like, okay, there is one God. You've been given enough knowledge throughout history. Get to him. He's inside you, basically, right? Contemplate that. Be kind to your neighbor. All else will fall into place. But I agree with you. We need leaders. We need good people. And it's not the end of hope.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have already asked Philip to talk about Buddhism. So let's see in the near future.
Well, Wagner invited
his
me.
presentation. We would love to attend that as well.
I would love to attend.
Really
I would love to attend. So please do send us the link. We would also like to be a listener.
Yeah, in my mid-20s.
I would like to say something about that.
Please go on.
No, I'm completely new to this group. Literally new this week. This is the first time I'm participating.
That's right.
And Wagner invited me a week ago, I think it was. Would you like to give a talk on Buddhism? Yes. And now I've seen the level of the presentation today. I realize I have a lot of work to do to produce
some homework to do.
Yes.
Sir, but we are waiting for your work.
But we are waiting for
you.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yes.
Sarmat, you said you need to be kind with your neighbors, right? And I just want to understand why in Pakistan and India, they are neighbors. Why there are so many problems?
Oh man, you gotta ask Phil. We just blame the Brits for everything.
I'm British.
I know. We just blame you guys for everything. But
now you can say about what Britain has done.
There is no money in peace, my friend.
Be on your own.
There's no money. There's no money in peace. That's it. There's just no money in peace. There's much more money to be made by war. Very simply put, much more money to be made in war. So much more.
Yeah.
Even movies are better when they're about war. Even Hollywood makes money. So there we are. By the way, Phil, I had a crisis of faith in my late 20s, and it was the words of the Dalai Lama that actually brought me back to Islam. So that's interesting. That's a different topic for when you talk about Buddhism. Because when I was reading the Dalai Lama's words, it's very similar to waking up in the morning and the ritualistic cleaning and the way you should
Yes,
think. And I was
very,
like,
it's
well,
all very similar.
because
Yes, yes.
the trap of Islam is that it's the rituals sometimes make you think you're doing good enough because, like, you prayed 5 times a day, but you're still mad at your neighbor.
Right.
So we got to check ourselves.
Well, guys, any more questions? Ari, any other question? Otavio, you said you had many more, but now
I asked all of them. I did all of them myself.
If you guys don't mind, I would love to give you 2 of my observations over the past few years, and maybe we can close it on that, or maybe we can continue if it sparks a discussion. The one thing is an interesting discussion where, like, if you read Islamic history, especially if you read that book Destiny Disrupted, you'll realize that a lot of the spread of Islam was just timing. There was power vacuums. The Byzantine Empire was weak. The Persian Empire was weak. The what do you call it? The Visigoths were destroying South Iberia. So it was very easy for them to, like, yes, please come and give us some kind of semblance of peace, rule over us, whatever, right? But if you notice, and this is very important, and it might come off very wrong, but hey, I'm Muslim, so I'll say it because I'm biased, right? So if you notice, when I said multiplicity, God is in the multiplicity, right? The oneness of God is proven by the multipleness of all of us, the languages and everything. So if you notice, 500 years Muslims ruled Spain, and the language and the culture has a lot of inculcation, right? The Alvarez family is actually Alfaris, and so on. But the Spaniards still speak Spanish, right? They do not speak Arabic. It was not a colonization, right? Whereas those right when the reconquest happened and everything fell apart, and the Muslims and the Jews were kicked out of Iberia, right, and went to Morocco again, they went to Mexico, the Spaniards. And we do not know what the Mexican people used to speak at 200 years. 500 years, the Spanish are still speaking Spanish. Within 100 to 200 years in Mexico, what was the local language? We do not know. No one speaks it anymore. The Mayans are all dead.
Yeah.
Right. So it says a little bit of the nature of those rulings, of those, as much as you want to think, yes, Islam ruled by the sword, and colonialism is the same, the imperialism is the same. It's an interesting thing to reflect on, right? How is that possible?
Can I make a point just about Mexico? Mexico, because I spent time in Mexico 6 months ago, and I went to the interior of Mexico, and I was absolutely surprised to see how the original cultures of the 40 major cultures of Mexico, the Olmecs, the Toltecs, Zapotecs, still exist. And they still speak the language. And yes, they do speak Spanish, no question about it, all over the country. But I was really surprised to see how they maintain a local culture, which is, to me, is as fascinating as Egypt, because it has like 2,500 years of culture in Mexico. So I just wanted to make that point because I was surprised with what I saw.
Yeah, I am too. And finally, with my second thought, I will take that into account to tell you next time I make the speech. Now, finally, this is a practice speech. I will leave you with this. Islam has 2, like we said in the beginning, Islam is not named after our founder, right? Islam is just a word, submission to God and find peace, basically. Very hard to do. Also, Islam has 2 major festivals. They are the Eids, the Eid al-Adha and the Eid al-Fitr. And what I love about that is, it was a German convert who got my eye into this, because like we grew up as Muslims. We don't we don't realize what is unique about us. We just think we're great. Like we all do when we grow up with whatever we have, right? But it was a German man who actually said, Islam, we're not celebrating the Prophet's birthday or something on those days. So these are the main 2, you could celebrate the Prophet's birthday all you want, but the 2 main events are Eid and Eid. And they're like, they don't celebrate a birthday or an event or a war. Right? What they celebrate is achievement. You have fasted all the month of Ramadan. Woo, enjoy, achieved something. All the Muslims went for Hajj. Now you all celebrate that they all went for Hajj. So you celebrate achievement and action rather than something that happened a million years ago, right? And I think that's is a nice thing.
That's very good.
Just a minute, please. May I have a little thing to add? May I, please? Thank you.
Well,
as we're talking
I'd like
about the
to.
action- Yeah, please.
Sure.
I would like to thank you so much for the presentation. You are so early, Sarmat, it's 4 now a.m.
Wow.
and
4:35.
Ashar is 5, 6 something. And I'm really thankful for you. I need to say that I have already asked Ashar to make a presentation on Pakistan, because there are people don't know. Whenever say Pakistan, there are prejudices. I must say that I have been there. It was very nice time. I met so many wonderful people there, and that's the thing. I have asked, and I hope we can put in our program here. Your presentation on Pakistan would be great.
We would love to. Just let us know. Let us know whenever is the time slot available for us.
Yes.
We would love to give this presentation on
Okay.
Islam or on Pakistan.
Fantastic. And I'm pleased to know Sarmat, so nice and knowledgeable guy, very nice, like very much. And well, that's it. We have a video here. I'll send you the video that we have recorded here now. And I hope we can carry on, Ashar, in contact through this group here. Okay. Thank you very much for you all. Obrigado,
Thank you.
pessoal.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
See you next Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much for everything, for your kind work and your kind
Yes. Yeah, it was
presentation.
amazing.
Very
Really
nice.
very
Thank
nice.
you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
We really enjoyed it.
Thank
I
you.
really enjoyed the company.
Fantastic.
Bye bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.